again, and welcome to another episode of The Graveyard Shift here on From the Deep. I am Book of Brett, and today we are going to be reviewing 2021's Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, which is a bit of a mouthful. This movie is currently streaming on Amazon Prime, and it is a movie I came across by accident. It piqued my interest when I looked at it, but I ended up kind of scrolling past it. Didn't find anything. I was like, you know what? I'll give another Resident Evil movie a try. I liked some of the Resident Evil movies starring Mia Jovovich. I'm butchering her name. Someone out there knows it better than I do. But I was a fan of those to a certain extent, in the sense of like they're fun, but they never felt like Resident Evil movies to me. I always felt like as that series went along, the Resident Evil aspect of it just plummeted further and further away. And that is why I was actually really pleasantly surprised by Welcome to Raccoon City. Welcome to Raccoon City is definitely a fan movie. You can tell this movie was made for the fans. It feels like it was made by fans of the games, especially the first two, because this movie basically plays out Resident Evil 1 and 2, the games, in movie format. Now, there are a lot of deviations just for the sake of storytelling. I kind of get why they did those, because they do still keep the characters in there. They do keep the basics of their story in there. But for the uninitiated to the Resident Evil series, especially the first two games, Welcome to Raccoon City is basically about a group of people, mostly cops, that are living in a town called Raccoon City, which is a town run by the Umbrella Corporation, which is a big pharmaceutical corporation. Basically, the Umbrella Corporation is going to demolish the town because of a zombie outbreak as a result of their viral research, and the town ends up shutting down, and this group of people have to get out before the entire town is destroyed. But for the more initiated Resident Evil fans out there, we do get Claire Renfield, we get Chris Redfield, I said Renfield, Redfield. We get Leon Kennedy, Jill Valentine's in here, Wesker's in here, Chief Irons is in here. The characters that you know and love from the Resident Evil series, or maybe don't love, are all present in this movie. So that was really cool to see. I will say the guy that plays Leon Kennedy doesn't really give off really Leon Kennedy vibes. I feel like Leon Kennedy in the games had a little bit more confidence than this guy does. And really, for the most part, this movie really blends the stories of 1 and 2 together into a pretty cohesive storyline. Now, this is by no means like a big budget production. This is by no means a gonna probably win any awards, I would say, unless they're like video game related. A lot of the drawbacks of this movie come in the forms of like some pretty bad CGI. The dogs come to mind. And this is probably closer to what I wanted in a Resident Evil movie than what I ended up getting with the ones that we're all kind of really familiar with. They could have honestly gone a different direction, and when I was first expecting the Resident Evil movies to come out, I wasn't expecting just a retelling of the games. But I feel like if I'm going to get my choice between what we've got in the Resident Evil movie series or movie franchise and this, I'm gonna pick this every single time. The acting is actually pretty well done. It's not terrible. A lot of the actors are actually really good. There are a couple of people that I did recognize in this. The guy that plays the conspiracy theorist, who I don't remember. Somebody might slaughter me online for this, but I don't remember the conspiracy theorist being part of the games, the one in the jail cell. I did recognize that guy, though I can't remember where I've seen him before. The guy that plays Chief Irons, Donald Logue, who was in Grounded for Life. He was the dad in Grounded for Life. He's in this. The cinematography is pretty good. I wouldn't say it's like anything really to write home about, but it's actually pretty good. Overall, the movie is a really enjoyable, fun ride, and I don't mean that in the way that Mike and I usually say it, which is, you know, like, well, the movie was shitty in one way or another, but it was still a fun ride. Like, no, this was like a good Resident Evil movie. And again, I think a lot of it is because of the nostalgia that comes along with the first two games for me. And again, this movie is very faithful to the first two games, which I think it deserves a lot of praise for. Now, the argument could be made that, you know, it doesn't really introduce anything new. It really doesn't take any chances with the story. But my argument to that is the movies that we're familiar with, the Mia Jovovich movies, I'm going to say Jovovich and Jovovich, we're just going to jump back and forth between those. My argument there is that when you deviate from the games and you start taking chances with the story, we end up with the Resident Evil movies that are popular, and I'm just not a fan of those. Like I said, the first one was okay. After that, I don't know what the hell happened to the series, honestly. I would say whoever made this movie, if they could deviate into something focusing more on Umbrella or something like that, you could you could have a really good movie that's faithful to the series while branching out a little bit. But at the same time, there's already so much with the Resident Evil franchise as far as books, games, and movies that I really feel like if you're going to stay faithful to Resident Evil, you need to stay faithful to either the games and or the books. If you've not read the books, if you like reading books and you have not read the Resident Evil books, I would highly recommend go read the Resident Evil books. They're also very, very good. I do have to say it was really cool seeing the Spencer Mansion come to life. Again, we do get some scenes that are some pretty bad CGI and everything like that, but again, I can kind of push that to the side, probably for me because there's a bit of nostalgia attached to it. We do get, if you're familiar with the first game, that classic first CGI scene in the game where that zombie is eating one of the soldiers. I can't remember his name, but he's eating one of the STARS members, and then he looks back over his shoulder. We do get that scene in this movie. They also did a really good job of kind of like pushing them along and pushing the story along without getting caught up in like the puzzles and stuff like that, which was, I think they did that really well because she does still receive the keys that you've got, like the heart key, the sword key, the spade key, those. She does end up still receiving those without having to go solve puzzles and stuff like that, because let's be honest, it works well for a game, would not work so well for a movie, but they do push them along through this really, really well. We also do get Neil McDonough plays William Birkin. Neil McDonough, you'll recognize him when you see him, but I mean, he's been in Walking Tall, he's been in Captain America, The First Avenger, Band of Brothers, Red 2. He's been in a lot of stuff, both big budget and low budget, and I think he actually works really well as William Birkin in this movie because he does have that like family aspect. He is a bad guy, but you can see some sentimentality in him as well. And I think he does a really good job as William Birkin. I will say, I feel like in the games, when William Birkin goes through his transformation, he's a lot bigger and he's a lot more intimidating in the games. I'm not sure why they didn't go that route in the movie, simply because there's a plethora of CGI in this movie, so they easily could have done that. However, I think it also works really well because he's still very conscious, and he's still very there. He's not been like consumed by the virus. So I think they still did a good job of that. I will say at the very, very end, they go way over the top with William Birkin, and that works really well where the virus is like kind of completely taken over. So they do make him gigantic. The video games always like took themselves very, very seriously, and I feel like this movie takes itself very seriously. It doesn't like go way overboard on the camp. The zombies even look really good. They look more like your classic zombies, and that was the other thing they did really well, is they stuck to kind of the vibe of the Resident Evil zombies, because you have to remember this game was made back in the 90s, where still the biggest representation of zombies were a little bit more lethargic and slow. But that is going to do it for me. As I said, go check out Welcome to Raccoon City. It is streaming on Amazon Prime. If you like the episode, go ahead and hit the like button. If you like the channel and you like the content we're putting out there, hit the subscribe button and put some comments down below too. I'd love to know what you guys thought of this movie. If you were watching this from the perspective of somebody who loves the video games, let me know what you thought, because I thought it was a great movie adaptation of the video games. Maybe you disagree. I would also really like to see the perspective of somebody who's not going into this loving the video games and is watching this for a zombie movie. And I'd love to know what you guys thought of it, because I don't have that perspective. And I think it's always cool to get other people's perspective on movies. So, like I said, like, subscribe, comment, and we'll see you guys next time.